When small things drive you absolutely crazy, imagine this: you're sitting in your Chicago office, and your coworker Janet is doing that thing again. You know, the one. She's clicking her pen during the entire meeting, making those little sounds every time someone talks, and somehow managing to turn a simple project update into a 45-minute dissertation about her weekend. Your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are tight, and you're fantasizing about throwing that clicking pen straight out the window. Or maybe you're driving home on the 405 in Los Angeles, already running late for dinner, when some guy in a BMW cuts you off without signaling. Your heart rate spikes, you're gripping the steering wheel like it owes you money, and suddenly you're having an entire imaginary argument with this stranger about basic human decency and traffic laws. The rest of your evening is ruined before you even get home. Sound familiar? We've all been there. It's like we're dogs obsessed with a stick, completely fixated on these tiny irritations that, in the grand scheme of things, mean absolutely nothing. But somehow, these small moments hijack our entire emotional state. We worry endlessly about tomorrow's presentation, replay yesterday's awkward conversation on repeat, and get ourselves worked up over things that most people will forget within hours. Here's the crazy part. While you're stressed about Janet's pen clicking or that BMW driver's rudeness, you're floating on a tiny blue planet in an infinite universe, living for maybe 80 years out of billions of years of cosmic history. The things that consume our mental energy, the office drama, the traffic jams, the social media arguments, they're not just small. They're practically invisible when you zoom out even a little bit. But here's what's even crazier. This perspective isn't just some feel-good philosophy. It's actually a powerful tool that can completely transform how you experience daily life. The ancient Stoics, particularly a Roman emperor named Marcus Aurelius, developed a specific mental exercise called the view from above that can instantly calm your mind and put your problems in perspective. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or pretending your feelings don't matter. It's about gaining the kind of perspective that lets you navigate life's inevitable frustrations with more peace and less drama. When you master this ancient technique, those small things that used to drive you absolutely crazy start to feel like what they really are: tiny blips in an incredibly vast and beautiful universe. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how this works, why it's so effective, and how you can use it to find the same kind of inner peace that helped Marcus Aurelius lead an empire while staying remarkably calm and centered. By the end of this video, you'll have a practical tool that can shift your entire perspective in just 5 minutes, anytime you need it. But first, let's talk about where this ancient wisdom actually comes from and why your problems might not be as big as they seem. 1. Why your problems don't actually matter. Ancient wisdom. Let me tell you about a man who had every reason to be stressed out of his mind. Marcus Aurelius was running the Roman Empire, literally the most powerful position on earth at the time, dealing with plagues, wars, political conspiracies, and family drama that would make a soap opera look tame. His son turned out to be a complete disaster, his wife might have been cheating on him, and he was constantly managing crises that affected millions of people's lives. Yet somehow, this guy managed to stay remarkably calm and philosophical. How? He had a secret weapon that we can still use today, and it starts with understanding something profound about the nature of reality itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal journal, which we now call Meditations, "The earth will cover us all and then be transformed in turn, and that too will change ad infinitum." And that as well, ad infinitum. Think about them, the waves of change and alteration endlessly breaking. And see our brief mortality for what it is. This wasn't just poetic language, this was his daily reminder that everything, absolutely everything, is temporary. Think about that Silicon Valley tech executive who's been working 18-hour days for the past 2 years, sacrificing his health, his relationships, and his sanity to get his startup to IPO. He's convinced that if he doesn't make it big, his life will be meaningless. But here's the reality check. Compared to the universe, his entire company, even if it becomes the next Google, is smaller than a grain of sand in the Sahara Desert. I'm not trying to be depressing here. I'm trying to free you from the prison of thinking your current problems are the center of the universe. Because they're not, and that's actually incredibly liberating. Let's zoom out for a second. That Wall Street trader who's losing sleep over his portfolio? In 100 years, nobody will remember his name. That Hollywood actor desperately chasing her next big role, convinced that fame will finally make her happy? Even if she becomes a household name, in 200 years, she'll be a footnote in entertainment history if she's remembered at all. This isn't cynicism, it's perspective. And perspective is power. Another Stoic philosopher, Seneca, put it this way: all things move in accord with their appointed times. They are destined to be born, to grow, and to be destroyed. The stars which you see moving above us and the seemingly immovable earth to which we cling and on which we are set will be consumed and will cease to exist. Seneca understood something that we often forget in our daily rush. Everything has an expiration date. Your current job stress? Temporary. That relationship drama that's keeping you up at night? It will pass. Even the planet Earth itself isn't permanent. Scientists tell us that in about 5 billion years, our sun will expand into a red giant and swallow the Earth entirely. Now, I know what you're thinking. Great, so nothing matters and we're all doomed to cosmic insignificance. Thanks for the pep talk. But hold on, that's not the point at all. Here's where it gets interesting. When you truly understand how temporary and small your problems are in the cosmic scale, something amazing happens. That knot in your stomach about tomorrow's presentation starts to loosen. The anger you've been carrying about your neighbor's loud music doesn't feel so heavy anymore. The anxiety about whether you'll get that promotion begins to fade. Let me give you a modern example. There's a Dallas real estate mogul I know who spent 3 years of his life in bitter legal battles over a property deal. He was spending thousands of dollars on lawyers, losing sleep, damaging relationships with family members, and making himself physically sick with stress. Then one night, he was reading about astronomy and learned that there are an estimated 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. 2 trillion. Each contains billions of stars. Suddenly, his property dispute, which had consumed his entire world for 3 years, seemed like 2 ants fighting over a crumb. Not because it didn't matter to his daily life, but because he realized he was giving it way more emotional energy than it deserved. He settled the case the next week and got his life back. This is what Marcus Aurelius figured out 2,000 years ago. When you zoom out and see your problems from a cosmic perspective, you don't stop caring about your life. You start caring about the right things in the right proportions. Think about all the wars throughout history that seemed earth-shatteringly important to the people fighting them. The political conflicts that consumed entire generations. The business rivalries that destroyed friendships and families. From our perspective today, most of these seem almost quaint. And from a cosmic perspective, they're invisible. But here's the beautiful paradox. Understanding your cosmic insignificance doesn't make you feel small and powerless. It makes you feel free. Free from the crushing weight of thinking that every setback is a catastrophe. Free from the exhausting need to control outcomes that were never really in your control anyway. Free to focus your limited time and energy on what actually matters to you. When you really get this, when you feel it in your bones, something shifts. The foundation that worry, greed, and anger were built on starts to crumble. Because those emotions depend on you believing that your immediate circumstances are the most important thing in the universe. But they're not, and they never were. So if our problems don't actually matter in the grand scheme of things, how do we use this knowledge to actually feel better day to day? How do we transform this cosmic perspective from an interesting idea into a practical tool for inner peace? 2. How changing your view changes everything. Here's something that might sound crazy at first. The difference between misery and peace isn't what happens to you, it's how far away you're looking at what happens to you. Let me explain what I mean with a story that'll make this crystal clear. Sarah is a marketing manager in Seattle, and last month she was absolutely losing her mind. Her biggest client had just pulled their contract, her boss was breathing down her neck about quarterly numbers, and she was convinced her career was over. She spent 3 sleepless nights catastrophizing about how she'd never find another job, how she'd have to move back in with her parents, how everyone would think she was a failure. But then something interesting happened. Sarah's grandmother passed away, and she had to fly back to Ohio for the funeral. During the service, she heard stories about her grandmother's life, how she'd survived the Great Depression, lost 2 brothers in World War II, raised 4 kids as a single mother after her husband died young, and still managed to volunteer at the local food bank until she was 85. Suddenly, Sarah's client crisis didn't feel like the end of the world anymore. Not because it didn't matter to her career, but because she could see it from a different vantage point. From the perspective of her grandmother's 90-year life journey, this setback was a small chapter in a much larger story. This is exactly what the ancient Stoics discovered. When you change your viewing distance from life's problems, you literally change how your brain processes them. It's not positive thinking or denial, it's perspective geometry. Think about it this way. If you're standing with your nose pressed against a brick wall, all you can see is brick. The wall seems massive, overwhelming, impossible to get around. But if you take 10 steps back, you can see that it's just one wall in a much larger landscape. Take 100 steps back and the wall becomes a tiny line. Take 1,000 steps back and it disappears entirely. Your problems work the same way. When you're pressed up against them emotionally, they fill your entire field of vision. But the Stoics figured out how to step back, way back, and see these same problems from what they called the view from above. Marcus Aurelius used this technique constantly. In his personal writings, he'd remind himself to zoom out and see his daily frustrations as tiny events in the vast flow of time and space. He wasn't trying to pretend his responsibilities didn't matter. He was the emperor, after all, but he was refusing to let temporary setbacks hijack his emotional equilibrium. Here's why this works so well. Your brain is wired to treat immediate threats as life or death situations. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. When your ancestors heard a rustling bush, their brains flooded them with stress hormones because it might be a predator. That response kept them alive. But now your brain treats a difficult email from your boss the same way it would treat a saber-toothed tiger. The rustling bush has become a demanding client, a relationship conflict, or a financial worry, and your nervous system responds as if your life is literally in danger. The view from above breaks this cycle by giving your brain a different context. When you zoom out and see your current problem as a tiny dot in the vast expanse of space and time, your nervous system gets the message, oh, this isn't actually life-threatening. I can relax. Let me give you another example. Mike is a parent in Phoenix dealing with typical teenager drama. His 16-year-old daughter came home past curfew, lied about where she'd been, and they had a screaming match that ended with slammed doors and threats about taking away car privileges. Mike was furious and convinced he was failing as a father. But then he tried something different. Instead of staying pressed up against the immediate crisis, he zoomed out. He imagined viewing this moment from space, seeing their house as a tiny speck in Phoenix, Phoenix as a small city in Arizona, Arizona as one state in a vast country, the country as part of a continent on a planet spinning through an infinite universe. From that cosmic perspective, he could see this argument for what it really was, a normal part of a teenager learning independence and a parent learning to let go. Not a catastrophe, not a sign of failure, just a small moment in the long journey of raising a human being. The beautiful thing about this perspective shift is that it doesn't make you care less about the people and things that matter to you. If anything, it helps you care about them more skillfully. When Mike zoomed out, he didn't stop loving his daughter or stop wanting to guide her. But he stopped treating this one argument like it would determine the entire trajectory of their relationship. This is the paradox that the Stoics understood. When you see your problems as cosmically insignificant, you become much better at solving them. Because you're not operating from panic anymore. You're operating from a perspective. Think about a time when you were really stressed about something, and then later, maybe months or years later, you looked back and realized how small the problem actually was. Remember that feeling? That's the view from above, except instead of waiting years to get that perspective, you can access it immediately. The Stoics called this a form of meditation, but it's not the kind where you sit cross-legged and empty your mind. It's active imagination, deliberately shifting your viewpoint until your current troubles shrink down to their actual size in the grand scheme of things. When you master this skill, something remarkable happens. The foundation that worry, greed, and anger were built on starts to crumble. Because those emotions depend on you believing that your immediate circumstances are the center of the universe. But when you can see the whole universe, you realize that your circumstances are just one tiny part of an incredibly vast and amazing story. So, how exactly do you do this cosmic zoom out? How do you shift from being pressed against the brick wall to seeing the entire landscape? Let me show you the specific technique that Marcus Aurelius used, step by step. 3. The 5-minute cosmic zoom out that calms your mind. Alright, here's where we get practical. I'm going to teach you the exact meditation technique that Marcus Aurelius used to stay calm while running an empire, and you can use it anywhere. Your Manhattan apartment, your car in Dallas traffic, or even sitting in a boring meeting in downtown Chicago. This isn't some mystical practice that requires years of training. It's a simple visualization that works immediately, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. First, find a comfortable position. You can sit in a chair, lie down, or even do this standing up if you need to. Close your eyes if you can, but if you're in public, you can do this with your eyes open too. The key is to engage your imagination like you're directing a movie in your mind. Here's how it works. Imagine there's an advanced alien civilization thousands of light years away from Earth. They've got this incredibly powerful telescope that can zoom in on our planet in real time, and right now, they're looking at you. Picture yourself through their lens. There you are, sitting exactly where you are right now, in your room, your office, wherever you happen to be. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The alien astronomers start zooming out their telescope, and you're going to follow along with them. First, they pull back to show your entire house or apartment building. Look at yourself from this perspective. You're just one person in one room of one building. You can see your neighbors' houses, maybe some cars parked on the street, a few trees, and some sidewalks. Keep zooming out. Now you can see your entire neighborhood. All those houses that seemed so important, all those driveways and backyards where people are living their daily dramas, they're starting to look pretty small. You can see the local coffee shop where you had that stressful conversation last week, the intersection where you got cut off in traffic yesterday. From this height, these locations are just tiny dots in a much larger pattern. The telescope pulls back further, and now you're looking at your entire city. If you're in New York, you can see Manhattan as this small island surrounded by water with all those towering skyscrapers that felt so massive when you were walking between them. If you're in Los Angeles, you can see the sprawling urban landscape stretching toward the mountains and ocean. Chicago looks like a cluster of buildings next to a big lake. From this perspective, you, along with millions of other people, are completely invisible to the naked eye. But we're just getting started. Zoom out more and now you can see your entire state. California stretches along the Pacific coast, Texas spreads across the southern plains, Florida hangs off the southeastern corner of the continent. Your city, which contained your entire world just a moment ago, is now just a small dot among many dots. Pull back further still, and there's the entire United States, then North America, then you can see the whole Earth floating in space. That blue marble that contains every human being who has ever lived, every civilization, every war, every love story, every moment of triumph and tragedy in human history. And you're somewhere on there, dealing with whatever brought you to this meditation in the first place. But here's where it gets really mind-blowing. Earth is tiny compared to the other planets in our solar system. Jupiter is so big that over 1,300 Earths could fit inside it. Saturn, with its beautiful rings, makes our planet look like a marble next to a basketball. And all of these planets are absolutely dwarfed by our Sun, which is so large that over 1 million Earths could fit inside it. Yet our Sun, which seems so massive and important to us, is actually a pretty average-sized star. There are stars out there, like Antares, that are 850 times larger than our Sun. If you replaced our Sun with Antares, it would extend past the orbit of Mars. Our entire solar system would be inside the single star. And here's the kicker, both our Sun and Antares are just 2 stars among the 150 to 250 billion stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way. Picture that for a moment, billions and billions of stars, many of them potentially with their own planets, their own stories, their own possibilities for life and drama and meaning. But wait, there's more. When those alien astronomers turn their telescope away from our galaxy and point it out into deep space, they see something that would blow your mind. Millions, even billions of other galaxies, many of them larger than our own Milky Way. Each one contains billions of stars. The numbers become so large that they stop having meaning. Now, from this ultimate cosmic perspective, zoom back in on yourself. There you are, on your tiny planet, in your small city, in your particular building, dealing with whatever situation brought you to this exercise. Maybe it's work stress, relationship drama, financial worry, or just the general anxiety of modern life. How does that problem look now? Not because it doesn't affect your daily experience, it absolutely does. But because you can see it in its proper proportion. You're a conscious being having a temporary experience on a small planet in a vast universe, and whatever's bothering you right now is just one small moment in an incredibly brief life in an incredibly vast cosmos. This isn't meant to make you feel insignificant or depressed. It's meant to free you from the tyranny of thinking that your current circumstances are the most important thing in the universe. They're important to you, and that's enough. But they're not worth sacrificing your peace of mind over. When you practice this regularly, something amazing happens. Those daily irritations that used to hijack your entire emotional state start to feel manageable. That presentation you're nervous about, that difficult conversation you've been avoiding, that financial setback that's been keeping you up at night, they're still real, but they're no longer overwhelming. The ancient Stoics understood that this cosmic perspective isn't about becoming emotionally numb. It's about right-sizing your emotional responses to match the actual scale of your problems. And once you can do that, you're ready for the next crucial step. Stop fighting things you can't control. Now that you've experienced the cosmic zoom out, something profound should be starting to click. When you see yourself and your problems from that universal perspective, it becomes crystal clear that most of what we stress about is completely outside our control. And here's the life-changing insight that the Stoics discovered. Once you truly understand what you can and can't control, you stop wasting energy fighting battles you can never win. Let me tell you about David, a political consultant in Washington, D.C. who was driving himself crazy during the last election cycle. He was working 18-hour days, obsessing over poll numbers, losing sleep over media coverage, and getting into heated arguments with family members about campaign strategy. He was so invested in the outcome that his entire sense of self-worth depended on whether his candidate won or lost. Then one night, exhausted and stressed beyond belief, David tried the cosmic zoom-out exercise. As he imagined himself from the perspective of deep space, looking down at Earth, then zooming in on the United States, then on Washington, D.C., then on his small apartment where he sat hunched over his laptop at 2 a.m., something shifted. He realized that no matter how hard he worked, how many phone calls he made, or how perfectly he crafted his messaging strategy, he could not control whether voters would actually show up on election day. He couldn't control what his opponent would do, what unexpected news stories would break, or how the media would frame the issues. He was pouring all his energy into trying to control outcomes that were fundamentally beyond his influence. This is what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus called the dichotomy of control, and it's one of the most powerful concepts in all of philosophy. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave before becoming a teacher, understood better than most that life constantly presents us with things we cannot change. His insight was simple but revolutionary. You can only control your thoughts, your choices, and your responses. Everything else is outside your power. But here's where the cosmic perspective makes this concept even more powerful. When you zoom out and see the vast universe, it becomes obvious that your sphere of control is incredibly tiny. You can't control the weather, other people's opinions, economic conditions, your company's stock price, whether your flight gets delayed, or even whether your own body stays healthy forever. What you can control is how you respond to these things. You can control the effort you put into your work, the kindness you show to others, the thoughts you choose to focus on, and the meaning you create from your experiences. That's it. And amazingly, when you focus all your energy on this small sphere of control, your life becomes dramatically more peaceful and effective. Let me give you another example. Maria lives in Detroit, where the economic uncertainty has been a constant source of stress for years. She used to lie awake at night worrying about factory closures, unemployment rates, and whether her neighborhood would continue to decline. She felt helpless and angry about forces completely beyond her influence. After learning about the Stoic approach, Maria started practicing the cosmic zoom-out whenever she felt overwhelmed by these big-picture concerns. From space, Detroit looked like a small cluster of lights in the Great Lakes region. The economic forces she was worried about were part of massive global trends involving millions of people and countless variables. This perspective helped Maria realize that while she couldn't control the city's economic future, she could control her own response to uncertainty. She could control whether she developed new skills, how she treated her coworkers, whether she saved money when possible, and how she supported her community. She stopped fighting battles she couldn't win and started focusing on the battles she could. The result? Her stress levels dropped dramatically, and ironically, she became much more effective at improving her actual situation. When you stop wasting energy on what you can't control, you have much more energy available for what you can control. This principle applies to every area of life. Take relationships, for example. You cannot control whether your partner will love you forever, whether your teenagers will make good choices, or whether your friends will always be supportive. But you can control how you show up in these relationships, whether you're honest, kind, and present. In Colorado, where wildfires have become an annual reality, residents like Tom have learned this lesson the hard way. Tom used to spend every summer obsessing over weather reports, wind patterns, and fire danger levels. He checked the news constantly, argue with neighbors about forest management policies, and work himself into a state of constant anxiety about things completely outside his control. Now, when fire season approaches, Tom does the cosmic zoom out. He imagines looking down at Colorado from space, seeing the vast forests and mountain ranges, understanding that wildfire is a natural part of this ecosystem that's been going on for millions of years. This perspective doesn't make him careless. It makes him focused. Instead of wasting energy worrying about weather patterns he can't influence, Tom focuses on what he can control. Creating defensible space around his property, having an evacuation plan, maintaining his emergency supplies, and staying informed without becoming obsessed. He's prepared without being paralyzed. The cosmic perspective reveals something profound about control. The universe is vast, complex, and largely indifferent to our personal preferences. Accepting this isn't depressing, it's liberating. It frees you from the exhausting burden of trying to manage outcomes that were never yours to manage in the first place. When you truly get this, you stop fighting reality and start working with it. You stop demanding that the universe conform to your expectations and start adapting skillfully to whatever it presents. You become like water flowing around rocks instead of trying to move the rocks themselves. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on your goals. It means channeling your energy efficiently. It means caring deeply about your effort and letting go of attachment to specific outcomes. It means doing your best and accepting what comes, knowing that your best is all you ever had control over anyway. Once you master this principle, you're ready to take the final step, transforming this cosmic wisdom into a daily superpower that changes how you navigate every challenge life throws at you. 5. How to make this cosmic view your daily superpower. Here's where everything comes together. You've learned the theory, you've practiced the meditation, and you understand the philosophy. But the real magic happens when you integrate this cosmic perspective into your everyday life so seamlessly that it becomes your automatic response to stress. I'm going to show you exactly how to turn this ancient wisdom into a modern superpower that you can access anytime, anywhere. The key is building what I call cosmic checkpoints throughout your day. These are specific moments when you automatically zoom out and gain perspective before your stress response takes over. Think of them as circuit breakers for your anxiety. They interrupt the pattern before it spirals out of control. Let me show you how this works in practice. Jennifer is a project manager in Portland who used to get completely overwhelmed whenever her team missed deadlines. She'd feel her heart racing, her palms sweating, and her mind would immediately jump to worst-case scenarios. The client would be furious, her boss would question her competence, the project would fail, and her career would be over. Now, the moment she notices that familiar stress response starting, Jennifer has trained herself to do a 30-second cosmic zoom out. She closes her eyes briefly and imagines herself from space, looking down at Portland, then Oregon, then the entire Pacific Northwest. She sees her office building as a tiny speck among millions of other buildings where millions of other people are dealing with their own deadline pressures. This quick perspective shift doesn't make the deadline disappear, but it right-sizes her emotional response. Instead of catastrophizing, she can think clearly about practical solutions, which tasks are truly essential, how to communicate with the client, what resources she needs to get back on track. The cosmic view gives her the mental space to be effective instead of reactive. The beauty of this approach is that you can customize it for your specific stress triggers. Marcus, an executive in Atlanta, uses the cosmic zoom out whenever he's about to enter a difficult meeting. While walking down the hallway, he'll mentally pull back and see the entire city from above, then zoom out to see Georgia, then the Southeast, then North America. By the time he enters the conference room, he's carrying the calm confidence that comes from knowing this meeting is just one small moment in the vast flow of time and space. But here's what makes this truly powerful. You don't just use this technique reactively when you're already stressed. You use it proactively to make better decisions. Before making any important choice, take a moment to zoom out and see it from a cosmic perspective. How will this decision matter in 10 years? In 100 years? In the context of your entire life story? This doesn't mean nothing matters. It means you can distinguish between what matters a little and what matters a lot. Sarah, a teacher in Minneapolis, uses this approach when dealing with challenging students. When a teenager is being disruptive or disrespectful, instead of taking it personally and getting into a power struggle, she zooms out and sees this moment as one small interaction in this young person's entire life journey. From that perspective, she can respond with patience and wisdom instead of frustration and ego. She's not trying to win a battle, she's trying to plant seeds that might grow years later when the student looks back and remembers a teacher who treated them with dignity even when they were acting out. The cosmic view also transforms how you handle success and failure. When something goes really well, you get a promotion, close a big deal, receive recognition. The cosmic perspective keeps you grounded. You can enjoy the success without letting it go to your head because you understand it's one positive moment in a much larger story. Similarly, when things go badly, you make a mistake, face rejection, or encounter setbacks, the cosmic view provides resilience. You can acknowledge the disappointment without letting it define you because you know this, too, is just one chapter in your ongoing story. Here's a practical exercise that will help you build this into your daily routine. Set 3 random alarms on your phone throughout the day. When each alarm goes off, no matter what you're doing, take 60 seconds to do the cosmic zoom out. Start with your immediate environment and pull back until you're seeing Earth from space, then zoom back into where you are. Do this consistently for 2 weeks and you'll start to notice something remarkable. Your baseline stress level will drop because you're regularly reminding your nervous system that most of what you worry about isn't actually life-threatening. You'll find yourself naturally gaining perspective on problems that used to overwhelm you. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern neuroscience is now confirming. You can literally rewire your brain's response patterns through consistent practice. Every time you choose the cosmic perspective over the immediate emotional reaction, you're strengthening neural pathways that support calm, clear thinking. But here's the most profound part. As you master this practice, you'll start to experience what Marcus Aurelius called the freeing and humbling nature of cosmic perspective. Freeing because you realize how much energy you've been wasting on things that don't deserve it. Humbling because you understand your place in the vast web of existence. This combination of freedom and humility creates a unique kind of confidence. You care deeply about doing your best, but you're not attached to controlling outcomes. You take your responsibilities seriously, but you don't take yourself too seriously. You engage fully with life while holding it lightly. The result is a kind of unshakable inner peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Whether you're dealing with traffic jams or major life transitions, difficult people, or unexpected opportunities, you have a reliable way to access perspective and wisdom. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about the view from above as a path to inner peace. It's not about becoming emotionally detached or indifferent to your life. It's about developing the mental flexibility to see any situation from multiple perspectives and choose the one that serves you best. When you live this way consistently, something beautiful happens. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the author of your responses. And that transformation changes everything. Why this changes how you see everything forever. When you truly master the view from above, you join a lineage of wisdom that stretches back over 2,000 years. Marcus Aurelius used this exact technique while leading the Roman Empire through plagues and wars. Seneca practiced it while navigating the dangerous politics of ancient Rome. And now you have access to the same mental tool that helped these extraordinary people maintain their peace and clarity in the face of enormous challenges. But here's what makes this even more powerful in our modern world. You're dealing with stresses that the ancient Stoics never had to face. Social media comparison, 24/7 news cycles, traffic jams, demanding bosses, and the constant pressure to achieve more, buy more, and be more. The cosmic perspective isn't just helpful for modern life, it's essential. Think about how different your days will be when you can access this cosmic calm whenever you need it. That annoying coworker who used to ruin your entire morning? They become a tiny blip in your vast life story. The traffic jam that used to spike your blood pressure? It becomes a few minutes of involuntary meditation time while you zoom out and gain perspective. The social media post that used to trigger hours of comparison and self-doubt? It becomes what it really is, one person's carefully curated moment in a universe of infinite possibilities. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or pretending problems don't exist. It's about developing the wisdom to respond rather than react, to choose your emotional investments carefully, and to maintain your inner peace regardless of external circumstances. The most beautiful part is that as you practice this regularly, you'll start to see the cosmic perspective everywhere. You'll notice the incredible improbability of your existence, the brief and precious nature of consciousness, and the amazing fact that the universe somehow arranged itself in such a way that you get to experience this moment right here, right now. This awareness transforms everything. Your problems become more manageable. Your relationships become deeper. Your work becomes more meaningful. And your daily life becomes an opportunity to practice ancient wisdom in a modern world. The Stoics believed that philosophy wasn't meant to be an academic exercise, it was meant to be lived. Every time you choose the cosmic view over immediate reactivity, you're not just managing stress. You're participating in one of humanity's greatest discoveries. That inner peace is possible regardless of external circumstances. So here's my challenge to you. Try the 5-minute cosmic zoom out exercise every day for the next week. Set those phone alarms. Practice the perspective shift. See what happens to your stress levels, your decision making, and your overall sense of peace. If this video helped you discover a new way to find calm in the chaos of modern life, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs this message. And if you want to dive deeper into practical Stoic wisdom for everyday challenges, subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel. We're building a community of people who believe ancient wisdom can transform modern lives. Remember, you're a conscious being having a brief, beautiful experience on a small planet in an infinite universe. Make it count, but hold it lightly. The cosmos is vast, your time is limited, and your peace of mind is always just one perspective shift away.